What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Height Over Heart MMA. This week we got Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker taking place in Qatar. But first things first, we're going to go over the results of last week's card. Take a look at the bets and see how we did. All right, so first fight of the night, we got Borshchev versus Camilo. Got this pick right. Camilo ends up winning via decision. Grappling is basically what won him the fight. Borshchev has been in the UFC for a pretty decent amount of time now and just can't defend a takedown. And Camilo was gassed in the third round, and even despite the fact that he was gassed, I'm like, was able to get takedowns with ease and was even landing the harder shots on Borshchev by the fight. So Camilo gets it done via decision. Next fight, we got Izagakhmaev versus Eric Mechanico. Izagakhmaev gets this one done via third round KO. But he definitely did not look like a minus 1,000 favorite. I mean, pretty competitive fight up until the finish. I mean, there's a lot of clinching, a lot of wrestling. And Izagakhmaev was shooting a lot of takedowns. I don't know. It's just he's good. He's gonna beat these lower tier guys, but I think in the future he is definitely a potential fade. He just, he got rocked in his debut. Didn't look great in this fight. I'm just not super impressed by the guy. So we'll see what happens with him in the future. But our bet for Izagakhmaev by KO hit. The bet for the fight to not go the distance hits as well. And then got that pick right. Next fight, we got Fatima Klein defeating Angela Hill. She just beat her everywhere in this fight. Beat her in the striking. Was able to mix in the takedowns as well. And beat her there. Pretty impressive performance. I just think Angela Hill is finally to the point where she's starting to fully show her age. But so our Klein money line hits. The Klein versus Hill over 2.5 rounds hits as well. Next fight, we got Sabatini versus Chepe. Sabatini gets it done by decision. Had a couple of hairy moments, but Sabatini is he's a really good grappler, man. I'm like, his ability to get the takedown and then get on someone's back and just maintain control is very impressive. I'm like, if you can't finish this dude early, then he's going to be a real problem. Chepe did a decent job in the first 2 rounds of trying to scramble out and survive and was making Sabatini work a bit. And he had a few moments with the hands. He caught him with a head kick at the end of round 1, but ultimately just wasn't enough. Sabatini ends up getting it done by decision, so we got that pick right. Then we got GM3 versus Kyle Dawkins. Dawkins just comes out in round 1, blitzes him with the hands, drops him, and then ends up getting the sub on the ground. I think GM3's time is officially done. He starts so slow. I'm like, if you just jump on him, he's kind of like how Cowboy Cerrone was toward the end of his career, where if you can just blitz this guy in round 1, more than likely you're going to get him out of there. But if he can survive round 1, you get a tough fight out of him. But Dawkins swarms him, gets him down, gets the sub. So the Dawkins money line hits. And I think GM3's done, man. I think he's going to get his walking papers here soon. Next fight, we got an upset here. Malcolm Wellmaker loses to Ethan Ewing via decision. Should have known. Dude's last name was Ewing, fighting in Madison Square Garden. Should have known that he had a chance to get it done. It was a good scrap. Wellmaker didn't look bad. I just think Wellmaker is just one of those guys that, like, if you watch his past fights, I'm like, he doesn't really throw a lot with his hands in terms of offense, like on the front foot. Like, he doesn't jab a whole bunch. He doesn't throw a whole lot of straights. He really tries to just counter with that right hook. And I think you noticed in this fight, I'm like, Ewing was able to pressure him and was able to throw combos and was like kind of going off beat to where Wellmaker just couldn't time that right hook. And kind of, I don't want to say he got exposed. I think Ewing's actually pretty good. But Wellmaker showed he's a dog. He's tough. He's got a good chin. He did hurt Ewing to the body in the second round. I thought it was starting to the tide was starting to shift the other way. But Ewing had a really good game plan. Was calculated. He kept going like offbeat and kind of like not throwing when you thought he was going to throw, and so Womaker just couldn't get his timing down on him. But really impressive debut win for Ewing. I think Womaker will be fine. I mean, they'll probably put him against some can. He'll get a knockout and start to get his confidence back, and then we'll go from there. But I don't think I broke this fight down in the initial video because it was added on late, but went with Womaker by KO here. Didn't get that one. Next fight, we got Blanchfield versus Cortez. Blanchfield gets it done via second round submission. Cortez looked really good in the first round. The hands were looking fast, looking crisp. But Blanchfield didn't shoot a takedown. Second round gets going. Cortez actually shoots on her, gets her down. Blanchfield reverses the position. And I think that kind of gave her the confidence of like, oh, like I can grapple this girl. And then she ends up taking down Cortez. Cortez, I think, was starting to slow down a little bit. Ultimately, they kind of end up in a scramble. Blanchfield's on like halfway on the back, sinks in a rear naked choke, but doesn't have the angle. And then Cortez is basically laying on top of her. And if she would have just tried to take the mount and gone inside rather than rolling to her back and going outside, I think she would have been able to survive the choke. But she rolls to her back, makes the choke even tighter. She ends up tapping almost instantly. So Blanchfield gets it done. We had a bet on Cortez plus 3.5. Obviously, that didn't hit because she got finished. We had that over 2.5 as well, and that got busted there, but can't win them all. Next fight, we got RoboCop versus Kopylov. RoboCop wins it via decision. Kopylov just really struggles to let his offense go whenever there's like an imposing presence in front of him. We saw it with Paulo Costa. When there's a big, powerful guy in front of him, he just gets real hesitant. That's basically what this fight was, is Rodriguez was just pushing forward, throwing the bigger shots, throwing more volume. Kopylov actually did a really good job of stuffing the takedowns. And then had a moment of success in the third round, kind of caught RoboCop with a looping left hand and kind of stumbled him a bit, but ultimately wasn't enough. RoboCop gets it done via decision. We had RoboCop on the money line, that hits. We had the fight to not go the distance. That one did not hit, obviously, but we got the pick right. Next fight, Bo Nickel versus Adolfo Vieira. Bo Nickel looked pretty good. Ends up getting the head kick KO in round 3. We had Vieira plus 3.5 in this fight. To be honest, that was more of a bet because I don't like Bo Nickel. But truthfully, throughout the week, as I was looking at this fight more, I was like, where is it that Bo Nickel's going to lose this fight? Because Mike Vieira is not going to be able to get the takedowns on him. He's not a better striker. Doesn't have the finishing potential on the feet. And so I actually ended up playing a Bo minus 3.5 bet, which ended up hitting. But I just got to stop picking against guys out of spot. I just need to go with stylistically who I think is going to win. So I got the pick right. The bet didn't hit though. All right, main card opener, we got BSD versus Beneil. This is just a massacre. Beneil's finished. Beneil is just he has no chin anymore. BSD knocks him out in 16 seconds. I just think it's time for Beneil to retire. His chin is gone. Love it for BSD though. Huge BSD fan. He's probably gonna get a shot at the top 5 in his next fight. I can't wait to see it. So it ended up getting BSD moneyline bet hits, and then our pick hits as well. Next fight, we got Prates versus Edwards. Prates ends up getting it done via second round knockout. Prates, another one of my favorite fighters. Striking was somewhat competitive in the first round. Leon's ends up shooting, getting a takedown. Prates gets back up. Leon gets on the back, and Prates is just aura farming this dude, talking to him while he's in the clinch. Leon's hitting him with these pitter-patter shots on the back, and he's memeing at the camera. The second round starts. Prates really starts finding his reign with the low kicks and with the jab, and then ends up throwing a straight left down the pipe. Literally knocks Edwards off of his feet, puts him out cold, and then hits him with a nasty follow-up shot. So the bet on Prates hits there as well. And our pick, Then we got Morales versus Brady. Morales gets it done via first round TKO. Solid underdog call here by me. That plus 3.5 bet we had on Morales hits. He just too big, man. Too big, too athletic, too strong. Just like how I broke the fight down. I just thought that he's just too much of an athletic freak and just way too big for Brady to deal with. And that's when it ended up happening. I'm like, so up to this point, we're killing it on this main card. We're 3-0 with an underdog pick in there. And then we get to the co-main and the main. Zhang gets dominated by Shevchenko via decision. I thought that Zhang was going to be the way better fighter here. I thought she was going to dominate her, honestly. And it was just the complete other way around. I'm like, Shevchenko was way bigger, way more powerful. I mean, we've never seen Wei Li look like this against anybody. I'm like, she's the one muscling people around at strawweight. But I just think in women's divisions, because women can't cut as much weight because they naturally they just carry more fat. I just think that the weight differences in the women's divisions are much more significant than the jumps in weight classes in the men's division. So Shevchenko, I mean, she looked good, I guess, if you want to say that, but boring as hell, per usual, for a Shevchenko fight. Not even close on this one with the pick or the bets. The plus 5.5 doesn't hit. The money line doesn't hit for Zhang. And on top of that, it was just a boring ass fight. And I'm like, started off the main card so well with 3 knockouts. And then we get this stinker. And then we go to the main event, which is another stinker. Makhachev ends up getting it done via decision. Just takes Jack down and controls him for all 5 rounds. I thought Jack was going to put up more of a fight. Obviously, I knew this was a possibility. I kind of chose Jack based on my heart here, not my head. And just Islam dominated, man. I'm like, look good in the striking. Was landing that calf kick at will pretty much. Islam is damn good, dude. Good performance by him. Absolutely shit fight. But he got it done. He is very close to being the GOAT, if he's not the GOAT already at this point. But plus 5.5 on Jack Della doesn't hit. Jack Della moneyline obviously doesn't hit. Our pick misses as well. But just to break down the whole card again, we got the Camillo by decision, so we're 1-0. Susakaya by KO, 2-0. 3-0 on Klein by decision. 4-0 on Sabatini by decision. 5-0 on Dawkins. 5-1 on Wellmaker. 5-2 on Cortez. 6-2 on Rodriguez. 7-2 on Nickel. 8-2 on Saint Denis. 9-2 on Prates. 10-2 on Morales. 10-3 on Zhang, and then 10-4 on Jack Della. So had a pretty decent card worth of picks. The bets were okay, not great, but ultimately pretty good card. Main card was fantastic. So were the prelims, but just kind of ruined it there at the end with 2 freaking just hug fest in the co-main and main event. Nothing like watching people lay on top of one another for 50 minutes. But good fight card. On to the next one. On to this week's fight card. We got Hermannsson Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker taking place in Qatar. Also, we got the co-main event of Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Machado Garry. Pretty decent fight card overall. I'll be honest, there's some fucking randoms on this card. There's several debuting guys. And a lot of chalky spots in terms of betting, but we're going to try to do our best here. Try to give you guys some decent insights so you can put some money in your pockets. All right, so first fight of the night, we got a heavyweight bout between Merrick Bujlo and Denzel Freeman. I'll be honest, never seen either one of these guys fight. It's a heavyweight fight in the UFC with two debuting guys. Do not bet on this fight. Um, at least don't pick a side in this fight. I do like this fight to not go the distance. I mean, I think both of them, all their wins are via finish. In terms of the picks, uh, this guy Hugo Cunha fought on the Contender Series last year against Rizvan Kunaev and was the LFA champ. And so, because I know who that guy is, despite him not being good, I'm gonna go with Denzel Freeman here for the pick. We'll go Denzel Freeman be a KO in like the second round. But I mean, looking at Bujlo's record, I mean, beating a 3-5 guy, 13-12, 6-4, 2-6, 0-2. I mean, he's beating fucking bums, and I've never seen either one of these guys fight. But the fact that Freeman beat Cunha, and he was a guy that was considered for the UFC at one point, we're gonna go with him for the pick. Do not pick a side in this fight. The only bet I like is, an under 2.5, fight to not go the distance, something like that. All right, next fight. We have Sagid Izagakhmaev versus Nicholas Dalby. I'll be honest, never seen Izagakhmaev. Holy shit. Never seen him fight, but he's 22-2. Pretty decent sized favorite here. He is a Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov guy. He is a Dagestani, obviously. I think his wins are a result of submission, KO, and decision, so he's a pretty well-rounded guy. Dalby on the other side, mainly a kickboxer. Cardio is his best weapon. He doesn't have a ton of finishing potential. Has pretty decent striking, but the cardio is really the main thing. He can be taken down. He can be outstruck. He's coming off that KO loss to Randy Brown, the first finish loss of his career. He's also 41 years old. I think that Dalby he's on the downswing now. I think as long as Zagid, has a decent gas tank and comes in here and gets the takedowns and, fights a smart fight and doesn't try to go crazy getting the finish, I think he gets it done here via decision. But I do like Zagid in this fight. The money line is a parlay piece. Seeing Dalby get finished in his last fight, I'm not super confident in an over or an under. The pick is going to be Zagid by decision. But if you think he's going to get a finish, go ahead. I mean, I think Dalby's kind of on his way out at this point. Next fight, we have Nurulio Aliev taking on Shem Rock in the lightweight division. Shaquem Rock making his UFC debut. He's got a pretty solid jiu-jitsu base. Nurulio Aliev, undefeated. He's 2-0 in the UFC at this point. He is a come-forward wrestler, does not have the greatest striking. He's a massive guy for this division. I'm going to pick him to win here, but I'm going to pick him to win here with caution because in his last fight against Joe Selecki, he won the first 2 rounds, basically laid on top of him, but couldn't pass his guard, never really did much with it. And then in the 3rd round, Selecki ended up like reversing a takedown or like getting a toss and ended up in mount. And Selecki won the 3rd round. So I'm like, Aliev does not have the best gas tank. Him being a massive guy for 155, I think, definitely impacts that. And considering that Shamrock has a very solid jiu-jitsu base, I think that Shamrock can at least win a round here. So I like the Shamrock plus 3.5 as a bet in this fight. I'm going to pick Aliev, though, for the pick. The other thing you got to factor in, too, is that we're in the Middle East. If any of these fights are close, they're going to go to the Middle Eastern guy. We've seen it in Abu Dhabi. We've seen it in Saudi Arabia. The Dagestanis and the Middle Eastern guys, the Muslim guys, they get all these questionable decisions if anything is close. So Aliev is going to be the pick, but I like Shamrock plus 3.5 here as a bet. Next fight, we got Ryan Loder versus Ismail Naurdiev taking place in the middleweight division. Naurdiev, pretty well-rounded guy. Just recently returned to the UFC. He's coming at that loss to the Iron Turtle, Jung Young Park, where he looked good in the first round, illegally kneed the hell out of the Iron Turtle. And then Jung Young Park came back and won. He's a well-rounded guy. Decent kickboxer, decent grappler, but he's not really special in one particular area. He also used to be a former welterweight in his first run in the UFC. So he's a little undersized for middleweight. On the other side, you got Ryan Loder. Good old-fashioned American wrestling, man. He's coming off that ass whooping to Azagakmaev, where he couldn't get the takedowns and ended up getting finished on the feet. Now, obviously, Bakoyev just lost in his last fight, but it was a better matchup for him against Loder because he can stuff the takedowns and Loder's striking isn't great. But I'm not impressed with Naurdiev. I mean, he was losing on the regional scene. Not really sure why the fuck he's back in the UFC. But I'm going to pick Ryan Loder here. I wouldn't bet on this fight. I mean, I'm not impressed by either guy. I could see a path to victory for both guys. But this is a no bet fight for me. If you like a side, go ahead and bet it, but a little too sketchy for me. I need to see more from both of these guys. Next fight, we have a banger here taking place in the bantamweight division. Battle of the prospects. We got Alexandre Topuria, the older, smaller brother of Ilia Topuria, and then we got Beksat Almakhan. I'm going to take Almakhan in this spot here. I think that obviously he lost to Umar, but he gave a decent showing. He's the first guy to ever finish Brad Katona, and he looked damn good. And even this fight with Umar, the way he was able to explode and get up out of these, like, off the bottom, like, he was in full mount and, like, literally, like, exploded and bucked and got Umar off of him. I'm like, very well-rounded guy, has legitimate power in his hands and finishing ability, has solid defensive grappling. Topuria on the other side has almost the same style as Ilia, but he doesn't have near as much power or the gas tank I think that Ilia does. That's one thing I noticed in his UFC debut against Colby Thickness is, yeah, he won, but he really didn't do much in that fight at all. I'm like, he had the bigger moments, but his output was relatively low. I'm like, but apart from, like, okay, he get a big suplex takedown, or he rocked Thickness once at one point, but he really wasn't super dominant. I'm like, that fight was relatively close. And I think that Almakhan has the better striking. I think he has more power. I think he definitely has the faster hands. And I'm going to pick Almakhan to win here. I like him on the money line. If he ends up being the dog, a plus 3.5 is a good bet as well. But I'm just not sold on Topuria. I think he's getting a lot of hype based off of his last name and his brother, obviously. But I like Almakhan here. I think he is a future top 15, top 10 guy at bantamweight. And I just don't think Topuria is that level. So Almakhan's going to be the pick. Next fight, we got Kyoji Horiguchi making his UFC return versus Tagir Ulanbekov in the flyweight division. Horiguchi's going to be the pick. He's extremely well-rounded. If you go through and look at his record, I mean, he's really only lost to, like, the elite of the elite guys in multiple organizations. I'm like, I think he only had one loss in the UFC, and it was to Mighty Mouse. And he's very well-rounded game. Tagir, on the other hand, primarily a wrestler. He's the runt of the Dagestani bunch of that Team Khabib camp over there. And I mean, if you want to go through his record, I mean, close decision win over Azat Maxim, who just got beat by fucking Mitch Raposo, who's not good. Beat Clayton Carpenter, who we saw just get dispatched pretty easily by Jeff Filo. Just out wrestled him there, but even that was somewhat close. Cody Durden, tough guy, but we've seen him be able to get finished. We've seen him out grappled. We've seen him beaten in the striking. And then Nate Maness, he's doing, bare knuckle boxing now. So I think Tagir's record is not the greatest. Like, yeah, the record looks good on paper. When you actually go through and analyze the fights, I don't think he's really that good. So I think Kyoji Horiguchi is going to be able to stuff all the takedowns here. I think he's going to be able to outstrike him. So I like Horiguchi plus 3.5. I like the Horiguchi money line here. I do worry that if this fight goes to a decision that, we get a homer call for Ulanbekov here, but I think Horiguchi will make it clear enough that he will get the win via decision. Next fight, we have Abdul Rahman Yakhyaev versus Rafael Cerqueira. These fucking names, man. Jeez. Let's see. I'm going to go with Yakhyaev. Rafael Cerqueira is terrible. He's literally only in the UFC to lose at this point. Yakhyaev is a well-rounded guy. He's 7-0. Cerqueira's coming off 3 losses in the UFC in a row. 2 of them are by finish. I think Yakhyaev gets it done here, gets it done relatively easy. So I think the money line here is safe for the parlay. I like Yakhyaev by finish. I think any of the unders should probably hit as well. But not much of a breakdown needed on this one. Rafael Cerqueira is shit. So Yakhyaev is going to be the pick. Next fight, we have Luke Riley versus Bogdan Grad. This is taking place in the featherweight division. I'll be honest, never seen Luke Riley fight. No idea what he's good at. He's a pretty sizable favorite here at 265 in his UFC debut. He's undefeated. Only problem, he's a Cage Warriors guy. And I know some of you guys know, never trust anybody from Cage Warriors. Okay, there's very, very rarely do you get a guy like Connor or like Patty that's actually good. Most of the guys that come off from Cage Warriors are dog shit. And just a rule for me is typically you want to fade the Cage Warriors guy. Bogdan Grad on the other side, 1-1 in the UFC. Coming with that loss to Naimov. He's a tough dude. He's going to come forward. He's going to mix everything together, mixing the grappling, mixing the striking. He's just going to dog it out with you. I do worry about his chin a little bit. He did get finished by Tom Nolan on the Contender Series a couple years ago. And I'm like, he got rocked by a spinning wheel kick against Naimov, but Naimov does hit hard. Spinning wheel kick is a very powerful strike, and he got wobbled, but he didn't go out. I, for damn sure, am not betting on a Cage Warriors guy in his UFC debut here. So I'm going to take Grad as the pick. And I like the Grad plus 3.5 as a bet. I do worry that he might get chinned here. I think Riley is a decent striker. I'm like, he's got several KO wins. But he's from Cage Warriors. I think they're a bunch of pussies. And Grad's going to be the pick here. Next fight, we got Alex Perez versus Asu Almabayev taking place in the flyweight division. Asu Almabayev, he fights just like how the name sounds. He's a guy that wants to get takedowns. He has decent striking. He's caught that win over Jose Ochoa. On the other side, you get Alex Perez, who has lost 4 out of his last 5 fights. Is coming off that knee injury to Tatsuro Taira, where Tatsuro Taira was like lean off his back and like basically forced his knee in. I think he tore a couple ligaments in there. He's coming back. He's been super unactive over the last several years, had a ton of canceled fights. He is a decent fighter. He's got solid kickboxing, um, solid grappling, but we've seen that his weakness is the takedown defense. And I think that Almabayev here is going to be able to get the takedowns. I think he'll be able to get the back, secure control time. We've seen Perez finished by choke a handful of times. And so I think Almabayev is he's going to be the pick here. I like him on the money line. I'm going to take him by decision. Not really confident in if he gets a finish or not, but just Perez coming off a layoff after not being able to fight a whole bunch, not having great takedown defense. I just think Almabayev is a pick here. And once again, we're in the Middle East. If it's close, it's going to the Middle Eastern guy. Next fight, we have Shamil with the Blob Gaziev taking on Sergey Spivac in the heavyweight division. Boy, oh boy. I really have no idea who's going to win this fight because I'm not impressed with Shamil Gaziev in the slightest. I mean, he's fucking Jabba the Hutt out there. But Spivac, on the other hand, isn't some elite guy either. Um, Spivac has a decent chin. He's really only been put out by like the heavier hitters in this division. He has solid cardio. He's a smaller guy for heavyweight, so he's a little bit faster. And like he's got a decent jab. He looked decent against Waldo in his last fight, and Waldo's pretty good. Before that, got that knockout loss to Almeida, where Almeida actually threw a significant strike for once in his life. Um, but I'm not totally sold on Gaziev. Yeah, he got the knockout over Thomas Peterson, and then he out wrestled Dante Mays, but who hasn't? But I'm gonna go with Spivak here. His takedowns of like his judo and his clinch tosses and stuff, I think is gonna work against a big guy like Gaziev. Gaziev is not your traditional Dagestani that's real wrestler heavy, has really solid wrestling. I think Spivak is going to be able to take him down here and control him and at least stay safe enough in the striking to make it to a decision or make it close. So I like the Spivak plus 3.5 here as the bet. I'm going to take Spivak as the pick. Not confident in it whatsoever. Um, but once again, we're in the Middle East. Gaziev is Muslim. Anything can happen with these judges' scorecards. But we're going to go with Spivak as the pick. All right, next fight, we have Jack Hermannsson moving down to welterweight to take on Motobek Orolbai. Jack Hermannsson coming off that very bad knockout loss to Robocop in his last fight. Orolbai coming off that relatively easy win against Tafik Musayev. Orolbai, most of you guys know, um, he was born 10,000 years ago. They found him trapped in the ice a couple years ago, defrosted him, and came into the UFC. He's been making waves. I'm like, if you guys know Baki the anime, this dude is literally pickle. I'm like, he was fighting dinosaurs and shit back in the day. But he's got a great chin on him. He's a very come forward heavy wrestler. He's almost impossible to finish. Hermannsson on the other side, very well rounded. Doesn't have a ton of power on the feet, but he's very light on his feet. Likes to move around and poke at range. And then he's a very good grappler. We have seen him out muscled at times, so I'm very curious to see in this fight how that goes because Jack is moving down from middleweight and Orolbai is moving up from lightweight. So I'm curious to see how the strength will play out in the grappling transitions because there definitely will be grappling in this fight. I think Orolbai is going to force the grappling, and it's ultimately going to come down to whether or not Hermannsson can defend it or reverse positions. I do worry with Hermannsson coming off that KO loss where he was knocked out badly. But Orolbai is not the most dangerous guy on the feet. He does have power, but he's not super dangerous. And I think Jack's movement will be able to keep him relatively safe. We're going to go with Orolbai for the pick here. But I do like Jack Hermannsson plus 3.5 as a bet. I think that he'll be able to stay safe on the feet and not get knocked out. I don't think he's going to get submitted. I mean, Jack Hermannsson is very good on the ground. I mean, Dolidze, I think, is the only guy. You know, Dolidze is fantastic at jiu-jitsu, and he got him in that calf slicer and ended up TKOing him. But I'm going to pick Orolbai by decision, but I think Hermannsson is going to be relatively big here at 170 pounds. And I think he's going to shock a lot of people with his strength and the defensive grappling. And so I think he can at least win a round, but I'm not super confident, but Orolbai is going to be the pick. All right, we have the feature fight of the night. Volkan No Time Oezdemir taking on Atomic Alonzo Menifield in the light heavyweight division. Alonzo Menifield, he's one of my favorite fighters. Just a freaking muscled up slugger. He's got 2 wins in a row, both prospects. Neither fight was the most exciting or looked the greatest, but Alonzo was able to defend the takedowns, win the striking exchanges, and ultimately come out with the victory. Before that, he did have his 2 KO losses in a row to 2 guys that are now in the top 5. Doesn't look too bad. Volkan, on the other hand, is going with that loss to Carlos Ulberg. Very close fight. I think there's an argument that Oezdemir could have won. But before that, was on a 2-fight win streak. We've really only seen Oezdemir in recent years lose to the upper echelon of the division. And, you know, there was a statement that he would, you know, there's a suspicion that it might have been chinny at times, that his chin was done. But if you look, I mean, Yuri Prohaska knocked him out. I think Daniel Cormier TKO'd him. And that's really it. I mean, the dude's solid. He's well-rounded. Solid striking. He's going to be the better striker here. I think he has the better chin. I also think he has the defensive wrestling that he can stop Alonzo if he decides to mix in the takedowns. Like I said earlier in the video, you know, I've kind of been making some picks based off of my heart, not my head recently. My heart wants me to pick Alonzo, but I worry about his age. I worry about his chin. He's going to be the slower fighter. He might have more power, but he's going to be slower on the feet. He's not as technical. So Oezdemir is going to be the pick here. I like the Oezdemir money line. I'm not super confident this fight ends inside the distance or is a decision. I could see either way playing out, but Oezdemir is going to be the pick by, we'll say decision. All right, co-main event, Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad versus Ian Machado Garry. Bilal coming with that loss to JDM. Bilal is heavy on the pressure. Decent striker. But he wants to get you down to the ground. He's going to shoot a lot of takedowns. Garry on the other side, very well-rounded, mainly a striker. Likes to skirt around the outside and pick you apart at range. He's coming with that win over Carlos Prates, which looks really good now. I hate Ian Garry. I was there live for that Prates fight. I hate the fact that he beat him. But, you know, it's making you say, wow, just how good is Ian Garry that he beat Carlos Prates? And once again, I cannot stand Ian Garry. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm making picks with my mind, not my heart. And I think that Ian Garry is going to be able to get it done here. I think he's going to get it done via decision. Both of these guys are, apart from Bilal's last fight, neither one of these guys are in exciting fights. They're both decision machines. I think the over 2.5 is almost a lock in this fight. It's probably going to be relatively juiced. But I think Ian Garry is going to be able to skirt around on the outside. I think his footwork is really going to give Bilal problems. It's kind of like that's kind of what gave Bilal such a problem with JDM was that footwork, which of course just fucking disappeared when he fought Makhachev. But I think that Gary's movement is going to be tough for Bilal to track him down. I think Gary's going to be picking him apart at range, and Garry does have pretty solid takedown defense and clinch work. So I think Garry is going to get it done here by decision. I don't think he should get the title shot. I don't. The Prates win is great, and then beating Bilal is impressive too. But you can't have Morales and Prates getting first round KOs over guys and give Ian Garry the title shot over 2 decisions in a row. You just can't do it. Also, it pains me to say, but Ian Garry is going to be our giraffe of the week. He's 6'3", so he fits the criteria. I can't fucking stand him, but I think he's a really good fighter, and I think he's gonna win here. All right, main event of the evening, we got Arman Tsarukyan taking place from Dan Hooker. What the fuck did I just say? We got Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker taking place in a lightweight division 5-round main event. Arman Tsarukyan has decided to return to work after a year and 7 months off. He's a very well-rounded fighter, very good grappler, very dynamic kicks on the feet. He's very fast on the feet. Dan Hooker on the other side, good striker, solid takedown defense. Dude is just a brawler, man. I love Dan Hooker. I'd love for Dan Hooker to win this fight, but Arman Tsarukyan is going to be the pick. And I think that Arman is probably going to find a finish here, probably via submission. I want Dan to win. I could see him maybe somehow clipping Arman with a knee or a hook or something like in the later rounds if he's walking him down and makes it into a dogfight. But I think Tsarukyan's he's going to be able to get the takedowns at ease. He's going to be able to stay far enough away from Dan in the striking, and he's going to be much faster. Dan is kind of a slow starter. He kind of like plods forward and isn't the fastest guy. And so I'm like, I think Tsarukyan's going to be, hit him with a jab, body kicks, leg kicks. I think it's going to be a lot for Dan to try to deal with, and then he's going to shoot in, get the takedown. And I'm going to say, I think he's going to get a Kimura submission in the 3rd round against Dan Hooker here. So I like the Tsarukyan money line. Dan is really tough. I think this fight isn't going to go the distance, but if it did, it wouldn't surprise me. But I also think Tsarukyan needs to make a statement with this win to make himself undeniable, especially after the weight miss debacle, back injury, whatever the hell that was against Makhachev. So I got Tsarukyan getting it done here in the main event of UFC Qatar. Just to review the picks. First fight of the night. We're going to go Freeman via KO, USA in this O. We're going to go with Zaghid beating Dalby via decision. We're going to go with Aliev via decision. Loder via decision, USA in this O. We're going to go Almakhan via decision. Horiguchi via decision. Yakhyaev by however the fuck he wants. Grad via decision. Almabayev via decision. Spivac via decision. Orolbai via decision. Oezdemir via decision. Garry via decision. And then Tsarukyan via 3rd round submission. But, alright guys, thanks for tuning in this week. That is going to be the picks. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. And here are the bets.